Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney and I'm here with a very exciting week of videos. So today kicks off the Love Notions pattern sale. Everything is 40% off, which is very exciting, and not only that, you can use my code TOMCAT10 for an additional 10% off. So everything on the site has been discounted 40% already. You don't need a code for that, but if you use the code TOMCAT10, you get an additional 10% off of everything. And for every order placed, and that means if you place an order where you order, 3 patterns, that counts as 3 orders. So for everything item you purchase, and this includes free patterns that you add in or whatever, you get entered that many times to win a serger, which is very exciting. That is for continental US, I believe, winners. If you are international and you happen to win the giveaway, you get that dollar amount's worth of gift certificate at Love Notions, which would basically buy you everything. So it's very exciting. So that giveaway is going on all week. And I personally am going to be giving away one pattern. I'm going to be giving away the Harmony Blouse, which happens to be one I am personally loving right now. And we'll talk more about that in just a second. But I'm giving away a Harmony Blouse, and the only thing you have to do to enter is just leave a comment on this video or on the post. I'm gonna have an Instagram post, so if you're not following me on Instagram, go ahead and head on over there, because then you could get 2 entries. So all you have to do is comment below which hack you would like to try. That sounds something simple. Really, just leave a comment. Doesn't have to be anything like in depth. I probably don't ask questions on this video because I'm gonna try not answering questions. I'm probably just gonna be reading your comment and just hearting them on this video. So just, so if you have a question to ask, you can email me or, leave it on Wednesday's video or Friday's video. So all Love Notions content this week. Today we're gonna be talking about my top 7 patterns that I think for hacking, because we may be using these for the pattern hacking we're going to be doing here on the channel. So if that's something you would like to follow along with, we may be using these patterns for the pattern hacking. I'm going to be doing some pattern smooshing, basically, and some hacks and stuff on these patterns. So if these are ones you already own, that'll be exciting. I won't be doing all of these hacks, but I will be doing some of these because I would like to get back to doing some sew-alongs and actual sewing on the Sundays again. But yeah, we're going to do a few more of the pattern hacking and before we get into that. So I might be doing this. But then Wednesday I'm going to be doing a 1 pattern 3 ways video for you. And then on Friday we're going to be talking about my top, what I'm wearing, Love Notions patterns that I am wearing this fall, what is in my closet for the fall that is Love Notions, to kind of give you some inspiration there. So again, it's very exciting. Yeah, and you can enter to win the serger as well over on Love Notions, and then just leave a comment on this video and I will enter you to win a free Harmony Blouse. Okay, let's get into this. So I've basically just I've got 7 patterns we're going to be talking about, although the last 2 are kind of a cheat because they kind of go together, but but I'm going to be going through a whole bunch of ready-to-wear looks, and I'll kind of describe like what you would need to do to the pattern to kind of get that look, if that makes sense. So I've got my computer here, so if you're wondering why I keep reaching over here, my computer's here so that I can very easily see what I'm talking about. All right, so the first, I'm doing this alphabetical, just because that's how I pulled them off with the patterns. So I'm gonna be going through these 7 patterns, showing you the hacks. All right, the first one that is up is the Aria button-up shirt. There are so many options with this, folks. I mean, let's get real. You could do a whole bunch of things with this. So the first thing that I've picked is just a shacket. So one thing that I noticed, and actually I want to make a shacket out of this pattern, and the only thing you would have to do for this is, it's a pretty loose-fitting shirt, but if you're using a thicker thicker flannel, like a mammoth flannel, the Robert Kaufman mammoth flannel, or if you watched yesterday's video with the Style Maker fabrics, that fabric that I picked for the shacket, that's a pretty thick one. So if I was gonna use something really thick like that, I would probably size up. So I normally do the size medium with the full bust front. I would probably go up to a size large. Now the shoulders would be coming off me a little bit, but I think that's okay when you're going for like more of the oversized jacket. just to kind of get a little bit more of that feel and it look more like a jacket. So just, yeah, depending on, you know, what you're making, but a regular flannel, if I'm gonna do the shacket with the flannels that I have picked, I haven't decided which one I'm gonna do yet. I kind of showed you those a while ago, but I'll probably just do my same size because it is a relaxed shirt. So that's kind of, it's a very easy thing. You just wear it open. I think this would be beautiful in a faux suede, like a stretch faux suede. This would be beautiful in faux leather. Leather is huge. It is everywhere. I've been doing a ton of research on ready to wear outfits for the channel and for the various videos you guys have been seeing, and faux leather is everywhere. It is everywhere. But that would make a really cool shacket. Also sleeves. You can play around with sleeves. Now, one of the things, I have a shirt pattern. It's the Liberty Thea blouse, which I think it was a Vogue pattern before. It was released as a Vogue pattern that's no longer available, but now Liberty has it as the Thea, I think is what it's called. Boho blouse? Yeah. I made it for my daughter. But what is really cool about this is that it's just a button-up shirt pattern, has a couple of like collar options and stuff, but the top of the sleeve is your regular set-in sleeve. And then it stops, you know, like short, you know, so it's fitted through the shoulder, short. And then it's just a gigantic rectangle of fabric that you gather into the bottom of that sleeve before it gets attached, and then the top, and then you gather the bottom into the cuff. So you could just take the Aria, chop it off at the top, and then just draft a really wide, you know, maybe 3 times the width of the sleeve, the fitted in cap, 3 times as wide, and then the length you need, and maybe a little extra, because it's nice if it's not just the length for your arm. If it's a little more, then when the cuff is on, it kind of pushes it up a little bit. And then you've got like the statement sleeve blouse, and you could kind of pull off this girl. This look. Now I kind of feel like, and it looks like that this might be the case with this girl, I feel like they've used a drapier fabric. So the shirt that I've made like that for my daughter, I did in a cotton lawn, so it has a lot of body in the sleeves, which would be very cool. But you could also do it in a like a rayon twill shirting or a challis, and then it would still have the fullness of the sleeves. It just would be drapier, so it would be a different look. And I think that could be really cool too. Gosh, even that YSL twill I talked about yesterday, the Style Makers now has in 12 colors, 13 colors, something like that, I think. That would be really cool in that. Okay, this is another one. Now this one is full through from the top to the bottom, and this would just be a slash and spread on the sleeve so that you're gathering the top of the sleeve. And is there gathering? Yeah. So you're just gathering the sleeve cap into the top, and then it's a real big sleeve, and then just goes down to the fitted cuff. Very easy to do. You do it in a nice shirting, crisp cotton shirting. You could very easily recreate this shirt as well. And I would, doing the slash and spread, I wouldn't hinge it at the top. I would literally slash it all the way out. Just make sure you've got a reference line before you slash your going horizontally across the pattern piece, so that you can match those back up. And I would just slash and put in, inch, however much you want, however much fullness you want, inch and a half. You could go 2 inches for each spread, and maybe do that in 5 places evenly across the sleeve. Be really cool. Okay, this is just a longer shacket. So again, the same type of thing. I would just lengthen it, make the hem straight instead of the curved hem. Actually, you could probably do the dress length on this for that pattern, and just straighten off the hem, wear it as a jacket. You could size up if you need to, and then you could just put patch pockets down low, which would be very easy. The pattern comes with patch pockets, breast patch pockets. You could just make those a little bigger and put those down low if you wanted to give that more of the shacket feel. Make it in a plaid, you're golden. Okay, I love this. So we've got the statement sleeves that we've already talked about, but now we have a bow. This is not hard, folks. This is not hard. So what you do is, now the Aria does have the collar, and the collar stand is already connected. So for this one, instead of having, so where it comes up to the points for the collar part, where you can kind of see where that's connected, instead of that, you just want to have, keep that little notch point, but you're basically just doing a gigantic rectangle. That'll be the ties. And again, just like with the collar, you're gonna cut 2 of both, and instead of sewing around the points of the collar, you're gonna be sewing around these long points of the tie instead. So you're just changing the shape of the collar on that. It's really easy, and it gets attached the same way. It's just that you'll have like these long floppy bits at the end instead of the collar, and then you tie them in a bow and you're good to go. So you can decide how wide you want those. You know, it could start off narrow, you know, the same width as the collar, and then you could just get progressively bigger as you go out if you wanted, you know, like a nice full bow or whatever. That'd be really, really cool. And then this is just another version of the shacket. This would be like a shirt version, the shirt version, and you would just square off the hem so you don't have that shirt tail hem. Size up if you need to, make it in a thicker fabric, and you know, do bigger buttons on it. That also will change it and make it look more like a jacket and less like a shirt. And there you go. You've got it. I love how monochromatic this look is too. All right, so that's the Aria, a great one for pattern hacking. And again, I'll be showing some of these on the channel, so I haven't decided what yet. So if there's one that you're like, oh, show that one, that can be your comment you leave down below. All right, this is the next one. This is the Arlington. The Arlington is the turtleneck pattern. It has a dress. It has a couple of different bodies. One that's kind of cropped and has the band at the bottom, which I've made that one. It has just a straight body. It's got a cowl neck. It's got a mock neck. It's got a turtleneck. It's got a short puff sleeve. It's got a bishop sleeve. It's got a straight sleeve. It's got lots of options. So for this first one, this is the dress. So I would make the Arlington as the dress, and as opposed to putting in the turtleneck pieces that they've got, I would probably take the mock pattern piece and make it really long, like really wide, maybe 3 times the width of the neckline, because I would then either pleat that or gather that up really, really small to where it then fits your neckline, and then sew that in that way. And so instead of having the mock neck that comes up, you know, and you'll double it over on itself so you have a nice finish edge there at the top, and then just gather it into that neckband. I think that would be really cool. That'd be really cool. I have a short neck, so I would have to keep mine pretty short. I don't know that that's the best look for me, but if you have a long neck, oh my gosh, please try this. So you just have to make it wider so that you can gather it into that neck opening. And then you would do the same with the hem and finish off the hem that way on the dress. I think that that would just be really, really cool. And I can already picture how I would do it. I would use the ruffler foot on my serger. I love that thing. All right, next is this gal, and it's just a bell sleeve. This is really easy. You would just take the bishop sleeve pattern piece and instead lengthen it a little bit, because obviously it accounts for a cuff, and just omit the cuff. Or you don't have to lengthen it at all. Just don't gather it into anything and leave it hemmed, and it would stop, you know, like right here on your arm, which actually might be better because then you're not dragging it through things as much. But that would create the bell sleeve that, that this gal has on right here. And this looks kind of more mock turtleneck. Make it in a sweater knit, and you know, there you go. You can recreate this look very easily. That's an easy one. All right, next is this. So I would do the cropped body, and I would do, not put the band on it. I would just leave it as is. And then this little lady here, let me try and, okay. She has like, eyelet on the sleeve. And what I would do is, you know, you guys, I made that Adrian blouse, and it is so good. With that jersey eyelet from Minerva, I would do the same thing with this, and I would just leave off the turtleneck at all. You could put a turtleneck on there if you wanted to, but you could also just measure the neckline and then draft your own little just neckband to finish it off. I like my neckbands to be 85% of the length of the neckband, so they stretch to fit and then they lie nice and flat. So that's a very easy change to make. You could hack that to a crew neck. Again, do the crop version, but leave off the bottom band. And then I would do the bishop sleeve in the eyelet fabric. And I think that would be so cool. Again, Minerva has the eyelet fabric in a lot of colors, and then they've got their cotton spandex in a ton of colors. And that's the fabric I would use for that. And yeah, you get a big bang. Okay, for this one, same thing. Draft the collar the way, you know, you can leave the turtleneck on or draft the neckband. Also the bishop sleeve, but instead of gathering the sleeve cap in, pleat it. And it's just the way you sew it. You don't even have to do anything different. Just make sure that your pleats are even on this side as they are on this side. And just do a big box pleat right there in the top, and you can get that cool feature with the bishop sleeve, and you've got your cuff. This gal has very long cuffs on hers, so you can play around with that too. If you wanted to make the cuff that's included in the pattern taller, that's very easy to do. Just remember, however much taller you make that, maybe shorten the sleeve part so that you don't have so much billowing over the top of that fitted cuff. But yeah, I think that would be really cute too. And you could do that in a sweater net or a cotton jersey or a French terry. There's many options. Okay, next, the Ballad Blouse. Okay, I love this one too. Now for most of these, you could do this, the shirring, that's the smocked kind of shirring that's at the yoke there, but this pattern also comes, you don't have to do the smocked, you can do gathered for the bodice instead, which most of these, it would be the gathered. So if that's, I mean, I feel like some people are scared of shirring. You shouldn't be, it's actually very easy, but you could just do the gathers and it would be great. And this pattern comes with a ton of different sleeve options, so, you know, sky's kind of the limit on this one. All right, so for this lady, it's turning it into a dress, and this would be very easy. So this is just the Ballad Blouse, and then you cut it at the waist, or maybe a little above the waist, and just gather a rectangle onto it. You need to remember that there's the button placket, so you'll want to fold your skirt pieces, you know, have basically a button placket on the skirt pieces too for that to finish down the front, which is just going to be, you could do a grown-on placket, you know, like just don't start gathering the skirt until, like, make it add up to the placket that's on the shirt, and then don't start gathering until you're past the placket part, and then you've got a button-up skirt and top, and it's a dress. You could also use the lyric, I think, for that, but I mean, this is basically the Ballad Blouse with a skirt on it. And it's a fun color too. All right, next up is this gal, same thing, except, I can't remember now, does hers have, I can't remember if hers has buttons. I don't think it does. Yeah, hers does not have buttons down the front. So this is even easier than the first one. So you would make the, you know, the button front, again, cut it short and gather a skirt onto it, but I would have the buttons stop right before the waist. So then you would just baste them over each other, so then the buttons are just in the top part of the dress, if that makes sense. And then what they've done with the sleeve here, you just add on, and you could add on the fuller sleeve that comes with the ballad. There's kind of like a bishop sleeve that's there. I would put that one on, but make it shorter. And then all that it takes to make that little sleeve is to put a line of, well, you could do a couple lines of shirring right there in the sleeve, about, I don't know, 1 inch or 2 inches above the ruffle that you're creating, so you have like a 1 to 2 inch ruffle there at the bottom. Or you could sew a casing in there and put elastic to cinch that up, and then it gives that little ruffle at the bottom. So cute. Make it in a rayon challis or a viscose challis or a viscose twill, rayon twill. It would just be really beautiful. And then this is the same thing. Again, I would have the top stop, and I would just put a gathered, basically like a gathered skirt, but it would just be the peplum. And this would be so beautiful to use with any lace that you've got. That's what I think is really cool about this shirt. Again, the sleeve treatment I would treat the same way. And you can make sure that the sleeve has that beautiful scallop on whatever lace you're using, so that that's the hem, and the same with the hem of the peplum. And I just think that's so beautiful. And I love it over the little leather skirt. So cute. All right, this is a Farm Rio one. You guys know how I feel about these Farm Rio. Same thing, we're cutting it off. We're adding multiple tiers this time. Different fabrics, multiple tiers, doing the long sleeve. It's just, it's so easy. Using the fun, bright colored fabrics, and then you have a nice maxi dress. You could make that button down all the way down the front, or if you just want to do the button through the top and then have the skirts as is, which I think would be easier, because, you know, you never, that would be enough to unbutton and get it on and off, and you would never unbutton the skirt all the way, unless you wanted to like leave a slit maybe. I don't know, it'd be up to you. But you could leave it, either create the button placket so that it's continuous all the way to the bottom, or just sew the tiers onto the skirt, or to the shirt. All right, this one, I mean, this is really fabric, it's just stunning. So if you've got some really cool embroidered fabric, or if you've got an embroidery machine, you could do that. I mean, more power to you. Now, the Ballad does come with just, I think the bishop sleeve they have is not full length. I think it's like this is the Rhapsody. It's, you know, 3/4 kind of bishop sleeve, although the Rhapsody does have a full length one. This is just a very exaggerated one. So this is just a matter of taking that bishop sleeve, making sure it hits you at your wrist, so lengthening it if needed, and then just slashing it all the way to the top. Or actually, because it's got the volume at the top, you could just slash up and hinge and just spread it to make it even bigger, and then just either bring that in. I would bring that in with elastic at the bottom, make a casing and put elastic in there, just because then you can easily like push it up your arm. If you did bias binding and gathered it into bias binding, it would just be too constrictive. I wouldn't be able to push it up. You know, that bias binding would just have a little wiggle room, but not a ton. So I just love the fabric on this. I'm just thinking if you can find any like recycled saris, silk saris, that have like some really cool patterns and changes in pattern on them. I live in an area where you can find that sort of thing at Goodwill, which is amazing when that happens. But yeah, those are beautiful. Any kind of embroidered fabric. And then finally, this one is just, it's just shorter and in a solid color. So it's kind of the same thing I've been saying. Cut it off at the waist, add a gathered skirt, or you could add even an A-line skirt if you have one from a different pattern. This one's just 2 tiers, it's above the knee. The same thing with the little puff sleeve. Although this one is the puff sleeve, but it's got just the elastic that's at the hem of the sleeve, and then it's kind of pushed up. It doesn't have the ruffle. So it's whether or not you put the elastic at the hem, or if you put the elastic like 2 inches up from the hem, that gives you kind of those different options. All right, next, okay, I'm doing these in alphabetical order. So the next one, this is a wild card, and I think this is gonna surprise you guys, but I've actually used this pattern a couple of times to great success. So this is actually a men's pattern. It is the Dockside Polo, Henley and Polo, or Polo and Henley, or t-shirt. It's a t-shirt. T-shirt, Polo, and Henley. And I use this for the knit collar and the whole situation placket that they've got going on the neckline. I just think that it is a lot of fun to play around with, and I'll tell you how I do that in just a second. Let's go to our inspiration. All right, so this is a dress, and you could use any of the patterns we talked about. You could use the Arlington and then just, you know, cut it a little above the waist and gather a skirt onto it, which is probably what I would do. Use the Arlington short puff sleeve. And then when it comes to the neckline, what I would do is take the Dockside men's pattern piece, and I would pick the men's size that's closest to like my own size. I would be picking on my upper bust measurement because obviously men don't have a full bust. So picking on my upper bust measurement, I would pick the men's size closest to my upper bust measurement. And so then the neckline and shoulder line should be similar in size. And then I would just lay that on top of my Arlington and redraw the neckline in for the Dockside. So that's me putting the Dockside neckline onto my Arlington. So I would just match my shoulder points and, you know, just as close as possible. And you're matching your end of shoulder points, because your one that's the shoulder point up here by your neck shoulder point could be different. It just depends on where it's been drafted to hit on your neck. So you want, so that one could, you know, come up. You want it to match the Dockside. So match your end of shoulder point, and then, you know, redraw in that neckline for the Dockside. Then you can just use the Dockside collar and placket piece and put that into your Arlington. And I've actually done this on, my daughter has a cropped, actually I did it on her, oh, what did I do that on? I think I did it on the Arlington. Maybe I did it on the Concord. I can't remember. I used one of her t-shirts, put the Arlington sleeve, short puff sleeve on it, and then did the Dockside collar. It's one of the pink striped shirts I made for her. I made her like 3 shirts that was in the same fabric. So this works really, really well. And then I didn't do any buttons on that placket. I just left it as is, so it kind of splays open in a V. And the same thing with this gal. You could get the same look. You could use a slouchier shirt pattern. You could use, gosh, you could use the laundry day tee even. Whatever shirt body you want, but then putting that Dockside collar again on there, and then just not putting buttons on the placket, basically. So then it lays open like a V-neck. And there you go. You've recreated those shirts. And that kind of rugby style shirt is just everywhere. And it has been for last season too. Okay. Next is the harmony. And folks, this is the pattern you can win. This is just a great woven t-shirt pattern, to be honest. I've hacked it into a dress, had a whole video on that over on the Love Notions channel, but it is a really easy one to play around with. Okay, so we're gonna take the Love Notions harmony, lengthen it, but not as long as I lengthened mine. So we're just gonna lengthen this to like right below crotch level. I hate that word, but right below that, and then add a really long tier onto the bottom for this gal, and then use the cap sleeve on the harmony, and you have recreated this dress. I think that this, to me, this fabric looks like it's a little bit heavier, like a jacquard or like a brocade, not brocade, like a hand woven, like an iCat, or a very thicker hand woven type of fabric. And you could go real fun with this. This would be beautiful in an Ankara fabric as well. But yes, I would just change the proportions. The harmony dress that I made, the dress is longer than this one, and then the tier is shorter. But if you change that and made, I mean, the dress is still longer than the tier, but if you just made the dress a little shorter and made the tier longer, so it really just looks kind of like a drop waist dress, you would have this dress. I think it's so pretty too. Just so fun. All right, this next one is just the harmony, and we're gonna play around with the sleeves. Honestly, I think what I would do, I think you could just put the Rhapsody sleeves onto the harmony and you would be good. Because the harmony comes with a flutter sleeve, or, hold on with that for a second. It comes with a flutter sleeve, sleeveless, a flutter sleeve, a cap sleeve, and a short sleeve. One option though, is that you could just lengthen the flutter sleeve and make that really long, because then it would have a ton of volume, and then just gather that in with elastic about mid-arm right here. And you'd have a really big full sleeve. I think I would just do that. That'd be really easy. Then you don't have to have any other patterns. This one is so cute. Same thing with the sleeve. So you're using the flutter sleeve, and then I would lengthen it. I can't tell, does she, that's a bracelet. Gather it back in with elastic, and then I would cut it short and just put a little gathered, you know, cut it off like right at the waist, a little above, and then just put a gathered tier to kind of make it peplum, to hit like high hip, and you would recreate this. Find a beautiful embroidered fabric, and there you go. You have a stunning top. Obviously she's wearing this with shorts, but you could wear it over like an A-line mini skirt. Again, mini skirt for me is mid-thigh. But I mean, you could do like an A-line midi skirt. You could do jeans. Flare jeans are super in right now. This would be so good. This would be so good over flared jeans, wouldn't it? I need to find some embroidered fabric, folks. I really like that one. And then finally we have this last one, and this is also Farm Rio with Anthropology. And I would basically just cut the harmony right here, gather, okay, I would cut it above the breast line, but then the part that you've cut off, you still need that because you still need the armhole shaping. But I would then go in and slash that, the front and the back, and spread it so that it has to be gathered into the yoke, and then do another one that's just a tier of rectangle of fabric that's gathered into that one to get the length. And then it's just a matter of, you know, you could pop on, well, you could just lengthen the short sleeve actually to make a full length sleeve. You could even put in that same lengthened flare sleeve if you wanted to. You could even probably pop the Rhapsody sleeve onto this harmony blouse and it'd probably be fine if you already owned that one. Again, this comes down to fabric. It's just stunning. So pretty. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense, me talking about how to adjust that one. Okay, so that is pattern 5. Now, pattern 6 and 7, they go together because it is the Tessa sheath dress and the Sybil skirt. Okay, so you'll notice that these are all top patterns except for the Tessa sheath and now the Sybil, because those are the easiest to hack. I mean, how many hacks can you really do on bottoms? I mean, other than widening a leg or slimming a leg or, you know, making a skirt flared, but a lot of these patterns already come with those variations. So I'm really just playing around, mostly making things into dresses, changing up tops, changing up features and stuff on those tops. But the Tessa and the Sybil, Tessa is a sheath dress. It's a fantastic pattern. It's one of my faves, as is the Sybil, which is like 7 different knit skirt patterns. So good. But they were made to go together. So you can put, for any kind of waisted dress, I say waisted, but the waist is not super tight on the Tessa. So it's not like it's super waisted, because I can still wear it and be fine. And I have very little waist. But you can put the Tessa bodices, any of the Tessa bodices, onto any of the Sybil skirts, and there's even instructions on how to do that. So I just think that's such a cool thing that I wanted to show you some options. All right, so this first one is just perfection. This would be the Tessa. Obviously this is a V-neck dress, and so you would have to hack the V-neck, but the Tessa it has a facing. So it would be very easy to just, you know, and I showed you how to do that in the Honeyburn hacking video, how to change the necklines. So you could just change the neckline to a V-neck on the Tessa and just draft a new facing. For that, to get that, I would use the swing skirt on the Sybil for this one, and then I would just take the Tessa sleeve and spread it, and then gather it into a elastic to give yourself that full bishop sleeve. Make it in, you could do this one in a cotton jersey, you could do this one, you could do it in a rayon jersey, you could do it in a cotton modal. There's many options, but if you did it in a dark color, you could have an evening dress, like a cocktail dress, that would be so comfortable. It would be ridiculous. All right, next up is this little number. So I would leave the bodice as is for this one, and add in, again, slash and spread the sleeve. Be very easy just to make that a fuller sleeve to get that. And then I would put the A-line skirt of the Sybil onto this one. I would use something with a little bit more body, like maybe a lighter weight ponte. You want a little bit of, or a double knit of some sort. You want a little bit of drape for that sleeve. But I did just make the foxtail dress, and it has a statement sleeve on it, and that's a ponte. So, you know, Style Maker actually has some beautiful printed pontes right now. If you like some floral ones, that would be great weight for this, and some double knits. But you do want it a little bit more bodied than just like your regular cotton jersey, because you want that A-line skirt to stand out. And the Sybil does have an A-line option that's there. All right, next up is this lady. And this, sorry, just, excuse me, looking at my computer. This one is basically the Tessa with the Arlington sleeves on it. So there you go, with pockets added. So you just make the Tessa in a sweatshirting fabric, and you stick those Arlington bishop sleeves. Because the Arlington sleeves gather into the armhole, it doesn't have to be a perfect fit into the armhole, they'll work. So I would do the Arlington bishop sleeves, because you've already got that for all the Arlington hacks, and just stick it on the body of the Tessa and make it in a sweatshirting. And that's all you have to do there. That is very easy. And if you watched yesterday's video, there was that beautiful marble dyed sweatshirting fabric that I had picked for that other sweatshirt dress. Oh, it'd be so good in that. All right, next up is this fun little number. It is the Tessa with a short sleeve, and the Tessa comes with a short sleeve, I'm pretty sure, doesn't it? Yes, it does. It has a short sleeve, so just use that one. And then at the bottom, it's just a matter of making a flounce. Now, a flounce is different than a ruffle. A flounce, and this is what I would do. I would draft a band to go around the bottom of the Tessa. So just to fit perfectly, you know, just like if you were, you know, just a rectangle that you would fold on itself to sew to the bottom just to give it a band, you know, like a sweatshirt. I would take that, draft that first, make it however many inches wide you want it. Then what you do is you take that pattern piece, that rectangle that you've drafted, and you're gonna cut from the bottom, I mean, it doesn't really matter because it's a rectangle, so just pick which one you want to be the top or the bottom, and cut from the bottom up to the seam allowance at the top in a whole bunch of areas, like maybe every inch. And then it's just gonna be a matter of spreading so that that pattern piece becomes almost a circle, or it can even spiral. So it's a real weird looking, you know, depending on how long your rectangle is, really long. And you could cut it into two. You could do like a front and a back, so it's not quite, and then cut that spiral out, and then you hem it however you want, the spiral, or you can even, you know, self-face it basically where you're sewing two, but you can't fold it, obviously. You would need to sew another one on top of it, and then you sew that into the hem with no gathering. So it's the same way that a circle skirt kind of fits into a fitted bodice. So it fits, that seam line still fits, it's still the same length to fit into that circumference, but then you have so much fullness at the outside that it causes the flounce, the ruffle. Now you could make it really flouncy by putting in some sort of a fishing wire or something. You could even make, I know that when I bought my serger, there was an attachment, a foot that I could put and put with the rolled hem, like fishing wire basically in there, that gave it, you could do that on like girls' dresses, that made the lettuce edge hem even more. I don't know, you could play around with that. But a flounce would be beautiful, and I would make it in a ponte. All right, this one, okay, so this gal, it's basically the Tessa. She just has a little tie on it, but I think that this would be beautiful because the tie gives the illusion of kind of a wrap to me. So you could just make the Tessa, make a tie to go with it, do the fuller sleeve. You could even use one of the Arlington sleeves on that, and you'd be good to go. You could do that in a cotton jersey, or I feel like a rayon or viscose spandex is gonna be too drapey for the Tessa. You just need a little bit more structure through the top. So for this style, maybe with the swishier skirts, you're fine. But you could also attach the faux wrap skirt onto the front of this instead of just the regular straight pencil skirt, which is what the Tessa is. And I think that would be really cool. And you could use a pretty print, do the big sleeves. There you go. Okay, this one, so fun. You could do this one in a rayon. So this is basically the Tessa that has, that has the, what is that one called? It's the one that has like the yoke and then it's full past the yoke. I would use that. So do, you know, drop the Tessa, put this skirt on the bottom, and then you could even do a second ruffled tier onto the bottom of that if you wanted to where it just got progressively like bigger. You have the waist tie, but what I think is really cool about this is that I would choose the version of the Tessa that has the yoke piece in the front, and you could put the ruffle that this gal has onto into that seam. So it would be into the shoulder seam, and it would just go, you know, into the yoke. So you would just basically make a ruffle with the knit fabric, you know, fold it over on itself, just a long strip, and then gather that into that yoke seam there at the front, go around the shoulders and then in the back, and the yoke in the back, and then just put the short little sleeve on there. You could do a little puff sleeve, whatever, and you have recreated this. So yes, I would do the Sybil that has the fitted yoke and then it gets flouncy. And then you could either lengthen that or you could leave it as is, because I think it would hit a, well, no, because there's midi lengths. I would do the midi length one of that skirt. I can't remember what that one's called. I don't think it has a name. It doesn't say the name, but it's 1, 2, 3. It's the first one on the far left. All right, and then finally, I have this little number, which is kind of the same thing. It's just, does this one have the ruffle? Yeah, I would do the same skirt. This is kind of the same thing, isn't it? Yeah, I would do the same skirt, everything. It's just this one is the above the knee version as opposed to the midi version that the other one was. So yeah, same type of dress, use a fun print. You could do rayon, a rayon or a viscose jersey for this one, and it would be beautiful. Yeah, and get a lot of great looks. So there you have it, guys. That is 7 Love Notions patterns that you could grab and hack into a ton of different outfits. And again, I will be doing some of these, showing you both how to hack them and how to sew them in the coming months. So I think that's how I'm going to, because I'm really feeling like I want to be in the sewing machine in front of you guys again. So I'm going to be doing sew-alongs with the hacks, if that makes sense. Showing you how to sew the hack. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's what I will be doing. So it won't be like an actual sew along from start to finish, but I'll be showing you how to sew the hacks, if there's any pattern alteration we need to do, manipulation, and then how to sew it. I think that I missed the mark there on the Magna pants. I had so many people ask how I sew the pockets once I've drafted them, and I wish I would have filmed that because that would have been very easy. So I apologize. We'll do better going forward. We're always learning. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. Remember, 40% off today through Friday only. Every little thing that you buy puts your name into the drawing for the serger and or the dollar amount equivalent of for Love Notions. And you can use the Tomcat 10 to get an additional 10% off the already reduced prices. Okay, I'll see you guys on Wednesday. I hope you have a wonderful Monday. And yeah, I'll see you then. Okay, bye.